Miranda Wu. I'm now teaching in Huaihua University. I'm so glad to present at this post-pandemic pedagogy symposium organized by Woosong University and KOTESOL. I know our world has suffered tremendously from COVID-19. The WHO declared it as a pandemic after assessing its rapid spread and deadly severity, using social distancing as a means of containing it. Although we have huge breakthroughs this year for speeding in vaccination and rolling out, it's bad to admit that we are still in the pandemic, not post it, because there are many countries still fighting to combat, like in India and in Japan. They try to contain the daily infection under 1,000 so as to proceed with the Olympic Games in Tokyo. And also 2 days ago in Australia, the state of Victoria went back to lockdown because of 34 new cases. Also, in my neighborhood, we got arrival from Russia, and that caused a positive case, I think 3-4 days ago, caused great panic and voluntary social distancing. So since we need to be physically distant from each other, the impact of the virus on TESOL is also huge. And according to the report by UNICEF 2020, the pandemic forced 1.5 billion students in 190 countries around the world not being able to attend classes normally. And the schools and other teaching institutions, they turned online platforms. Now we use more internet and a number of other important technologies to develop materials and educational purposes. The delivery and management of lesson plans, etc. The schools, we have a lot of challenges. Also the teachers, basically all various stakeholders, including the schools that don't have contingency plans when they happen. The teachers don't have online teaching experience and don't have enough digital literacy. For students, they always complain about learning efficacy, and parents, they question the quality and mode of online education. I like the term new normal used by Dr. David Kent, my co-author and honorary advisor, in his paper last year, New Normal. And I'd like to link with what I observed for this new normal in Chinese university from a macro level before I start my research. Although China has achieved a little success in combating COVID-19, no bias, but motor and break education is coming back gradually and fully. The integration of online and offline education in this context of social distance has become the new normal mentioned, either a contingent planning or the ongoing digital transformation. This is pretty viral in Chinese universities now. And we as teachers, organizations, we must have a comprehensive understanding of the advantages and limitations of online education so as to adapt to it, to the pandemic, to this new normal through joint efforts. I experienced so much reform in the previous year after graduation, teaching in the university. And I can feel how much the government as a whole setting a path for this digital transformation. Now we're engaging more online teaching and embed more AI technologies in classrooms. And we are encouraged to attend various teaching competitions, such as the informatization competition, the Internet Plus Innovation and Entrepreneurship course design, the foreign language course ideology and politics competition, gold course, the first class online course, and the blending teaching, etc., online and offline. And quite interestingly, these awards from competitions are directly associated with one's professional title evaluation and promotion. So it's quite important, and everyone is taking attaching great importance to these ones. In a microscopic aspect, when we face traditional face-to-face teaching, is now replaced by SCMC, the synchronous computer mediated communication. And it's supported by different kinds of learning management systems, the massive open online courses, all sort of them. These platforms combined with the mobile media, they can integrate multimodal resources into classes, homework. We can use videos, recordings, and reading materials, etc. For also support activities like online reviews, Q&A, discussion, and it enables collaboration. So it's easier to be student-centered across time and space using multiple resources. Maybe not as easy as in the actual traditional classroom, but it can be a silver lining in the online education in this pandemic time. So far, I'd like to allow me to share my slides. Hold on. Okay, am I sharing my slides? Okay, thanks. So far, I've come to these points. COVID-19 has brought a new norm to education, also in language TESOL teaching. And China now is experiencing a digital transformation. And this is to answer the needs of the time in this pandemic. And also because of this pandemic, the computer-based language testing has seen a boom in recent years. Also this year, that's a lot because I've been engaging in the teaching online for the coming research, that's a PTEA. I mentioned these competitions. I'd like, because as a Chinese teacher, I'm here to introduce the background of this pedagogy or pandemic-related situation related to China. So Chinese universities, they are paying more attention than ever before on blending AI technologies and using online education currently. And here's a number. We call it a 10,000 plan. About 10,000 state-level first-class courses need to be promoted and developed. And it's hoped to accomplish 4,000 courses by the end of 2021. These courses will be funded if successfully applied from a university level to the government. I'd like now to take the research, to present to you my research, the working memory strategy efficacy for Pearson Test of English speaking. And I'd like to cover my presentation in the following aspects, introducing a little bit more on the research about its background and significance, the ideas and data, the literature review, experiment and analysis. And finally, I'd like to come to the findings and discussions and conclusions. So for this research is not only investigating the cognitive factors that influencing the efficacy of speaking, but also demonstrating working memory strategies as an online learning pedagogy catering to the pandemic. In this computer-based test takers and instructors, they are eager to interpret the mysterious reporting algorithm because it seems to them the algorithm is always unknown. And especially when they have a failed test score that can't meet their satisfactory target score, then they are so eager to know how to improve. So the ultimate goal is to achieve their a better outcome based on their first report handed to us before our training. And we are going to analyze the test reports and to develop strategies to help them for a better outcome. Okay, now is the ideas and data. I'd like to show the aspects of how to obtain better performance in this test. There are 3 data sets. The very first one is 214 score reports collected from 107 participants. And data set 2 is an experiment design based on tasks. And I also investigated into the CAF constructs, complexity, accuracy, and fluency. And there are 3 experiments introduced in this study. The read aloud experiment, describe image and retell lecture experiment, then the repeat sentence and answer short question experiment. And dataset 3 is a pre-treatment survey, which has 24 items, and it was delivered online to investigate their prior knowledge of English, their perception, motivation, and target score for sitting in that test. This is a comparison of students' score report before and after the test, after the training. We can see before coming to our session, there was 43 in overall, and it has improved to 66. Noticeably for speaking, here the score was 40 and then improved to 71. The enabling skills are fluency and pronunciation, both are significantly improved. I'm going to elaborate by data, more data later. So allow me to introduce a little literature. I investigated into authors, scholars, how they study on the speaking performance facets, including linguistic, CAF, the complexity, accuracy, and fluency, and cognitive constructs. Although the CAF framework of syntactic complexity, grammatical accuracy, and fluency have established measurement standards for linguistic research for more than 20 years, and it has faced criticism by scholars regarding the questionable validity of latent construct representation when applied to different tasks. And there are more scholars stating that task-based planning created a positive effect on improving CAF in narrative writing. And this author, he studied task planning effects on second language development in synchronous text-based and computer-mediated communication. Mulligan, he reviewed free recall in relation with experimental design moderated by differences in task materials and retrieval practice success rates, structure, length, and when it comes to feedback. So followed are the experiments and analysis. There are 3 experiments and online training sessions. And I'd like to introduce a little on the profile of the participants. There are in total 107 of them. Each has 2 reports before and after the training. And for the online training sessions, we conducted over a period of 36 years from February of the year 2018 to January 2021. We can see they have an average mean age, average age of 28 years old. It's not too old because this target group, these participants, they are, for example, aiming at migrating to another country, and this PTEA is their proficiency test score. They need to have this, or they are going to study. And they spend on average 17.21 years studying English. The target score is 74.88. In PTEA, they always set a target score of 65, 79, or 86, meeting the requirements of immigration bureaus for their ideal universities. They took so many times in the PTEA if they try to work alone. Some of them, they even tried for more than 10 times. About the experiments, the participants are going to be engaged in 3 experiments to explore the efficacy of task-based working memory strategies through a read aloud, repeat sentence and answer short question experiment, and DI and retell RL experiment. We explored and discussed the results independently for each experiment using a paired participant t-test, using the score reports, and participants pre and post treatment analyzed determine the efficacy of working memory strategy. Okay, here is those experimental material and apparatus are tasks found in the PTEA official guide, and some of them are simulation tasks that we embedded into a variety of resources. For example, the mobile applications. We develop our own apps, and we have our websites. These are the website links. And for apps, we have AI, speech recognition, and automatic evaluation technologies to support learners who are attempting the speaking section. It can improve the efficacy, the efficiency, because immediately after the practice, they can see their pronunciation score, fluency score, where to improve, etc. So in the experiment, a total of 2,024 prompts were recorded for tasks. And these are the numbers. For repeat sentence, that's 303, DI, describing image, 623, 468 for retell lectures, and 138 for answer short question. This is screenshots for the app, and you can see they can practice separately. This is for speaking, and those are the items. And on the right, this is a described image practice. Right here, there's a microphone, and you press, then it can start rolling to record in 40 seconds for pronunciation, fluency, and content based on the 3 criteria for the speaking. And this is the explanation of our requirement by the test. And noticeably, for repeat sentence, based on our pre-treatment survey, most students think that this is the most important, because they need to respond within 3 seconds. Otherwise, the microphone, because it's a computer-based exam, will be shut, and they will have no chance to record their answers for all of the speaking items. But this one is particularly challenging because it requires memory. And sometimes the short sentences come from nowhere, no context, not like a retell lecture lasts for 90 or 120 seconds. Then they have time to digest the meaning. And this one is too nervous to do that, for them, especially in an actual test. Okay, the next is numbers for the task and time allocation during and after each training session. Each training session will be for 120 minutes, and this is how we allocate it. Because based on the survey, repeat sentence is the most difficult, that we allocate the longest time, and describe image can follow, then also 30 minutes. For the design of the experiment, based on the literature, also the official guide, the enabling skills, we developed 9 CAF constructs. There are AI-based pronunciation and oral fluency perception, and the speed fluency, breakdown fluency errors, repair fluency errors, pronunciation errors. And we also, during the experiment sessions, we try to motivate the students to achieve in fluency. And we also want them to achieve the combos. By combos, I will explain later. Anyway, the 9 CAF constructs are the reason combo, and for repeat sentence and write for dictation combos, describe image combos, and retell lecture combos. For example, for the 9 sub-constructs, for here, reason combo, this refers to the correct pronunciation for all marked chunking, assimilation, and deletion speech acts produced by participants. They are going to show correct pausing and show their understanding of the original prompt, where to pause. This partially will be shown by AI evaluation, and also during the session as the instructor, we are going to note down, record their combos for each participant. Okay, here comes the RA experiment results and discussion. Firstly, correlation between articulation rate, also speed fluency. The correlation between the speed fluency and AI perceived fluency is observed, 0.515. Moreover, 56% of the breakdown fluency errors in mid-clause pauses were Plosion related. Because it's difficult to pronounce the Plosion sounds, or they're not familiar with the vocabulary itself. So naturally they would pause in those places, but they're not supposed to do so. But detected by the machine or either by us, then it's going to be undermining their score in the speaking in that breakdown fluency part. Assimilation and deletion of sounds in a continuous and relatively fast speech is an important characteristic of being native-like. If they can show great improvement or they're proficient in assimilation and deletion, then they are definitely, they're going to be more like prone to native sounds pronunciation. Secondly, the higher the speed fluency or the acceleration rate is, then the higher the oral fluency score will be. And in return, the overall speaking score also improves. And this indicates that there is a trade-off effect between speed fluency and pronunciation. Articulation speed is the most important predictor for automatically assessed read aloud performance. And lastly, repair fluency errors are significantly correlated with speed fluency. It means if they try to speak faster, definitely they're going to make more mistakes. They're going to repeat more, and they're going to correct themselves more, and they have more false starts. Also, post-treatment speaking performance scores are negatively related with repair fluency errors. Okay, now let me introduce the second experiment, the repeat sentence and answer short question. I grouped them together in this experiment because they are both short sentences that last for 9 to 18, even sometimes 20 words. And the requirement was students need to respond within 3 seconds. However, due to the memory strategy and investigation, they found if it's after 2 seconds, then their repeat sentence efficacy will be significantly reduced. They cannot remember what exactly heard. For this design and procedures, there are 4 steps, and we call it the phonological loop trail, the episodic buffer trail, the first language transfer, it is interpretation. I also encourage the students during sessions to put back into our mother tongue, their mother tongue, mostly Chinese, and to show whether they have fully understood the text or the sentence or the lecture. And step 4 is to answer short questions. They're going to do repeat the sentence first. Mostly they're going to write for dictation. The words need to be in the right place, in the right form, according to this requirement. And here are the detailed analysis or explanation of each drill. Take, for example, step 2, the episodic buffer drill has the intent of applying a method where active listening helps to enhance word memory efficacy by associating pictures and scenarios in the brain based on keywords that are comprehensible to the listener when the audio is played. And specifically, we are going to play the audio prompt, and the participants need to repeat the sentence. At the end of the sentence, there will be a pause to record their performance. And we would make a note as to when each participant was able to correctly record the sentence. If participants were able to successfully record 3 sentences in a row, and this is called a combo, also mentioned earlier, and I didn't go to the specifics. So here, the results and discussion for this experiment, an average of mistakes were detected. No, this is actually the standard deviation mean. Those are the mistakes in pronunciation, the mean score of 168. And for breakdown fluency errors, that's on average 126 during 28 days. Repair fluency, that's 75.69. In this experiment, participants made 39,680 errors in total for pronunciation and fluency. Both human detected and AI perceived pronunciation errors has a total sum of 18,044. Breakdown fluency errors for the mean is 126. Okay. And there is a correlation among pronunciation and fluency measures in the RS-ASQ experiment, showing in data in this table. And we can see breakdown fluency error and post-training pronunciation. They are negatively related at 0.581, and repair fluency errors and post-training fluency as minus 0.840. Okay, the control of attention and anxiety are essentially deciders for participants' breakdown fluency. When undertaking step 1, phonological loop trail, and participants' focus should be a parrot-style shadowing exercise without any distracting or placing much attention on comprehension. Rather, with step 2, they're encouraged to buffer episodically with the words flashing on an imaginary screen or a sketch pad before starting to then record the sentence during an ease state. And in this step, an immediate response from less than 1 to 3 seconds latency due to the limit of human short-term memory capacity and duration was expected, and would also be expected during actual test conditions. It was determined that response latency of longer than 3 seconds would impair accuracy, fluency scores significantly in recall, increasing lexical and grammatical complexity, which results in the failures of achieving what were designated an RS combo or an ASQ-WFE combo. This is experiment 3 for describe image and retell lecture, and a pre-designed template used as a physical visual spatial sketch pad. These authors, they have investigated on the visual spatial sketch pad. And here for this experiment, we used it during the sessions and was applied for participants to practice with undertaking the task involved in the experiment. Allow me to show you a simple is a DI template. Because for non-English speakers, when they are required to speak in timed condition, is a lot. So what we do is to provide simple sentence patterns for them to fill in the blanks. And with this, it's so much easier for them to follow. And practically for the tests like IELTS or this PTEA, there are similar tasks. Consider this is the IELTS, the writing part, the small article, what we usually call. And we demonstrate this and we encourage them to use the template for this speaking item, showing the content, enough content and logic and enough numbers, and in the end, bringing a conclusion so that the machine will detect all the necessary, the key elements, and also with figures for a satisfactory score. So the very first sentence, the topic, and then to compare a little bit, and these are quite simple, but it takes at least 1 hour for them to be familiar with the horizontal axis, vertical axis is, plus some name, unit, and range, try to be fluent. Because one pause or repetition can be a mistake, an error detected by the machine. These are, the line, the bar, the pie charts that we can keep practicing. And investigation, this is really detailed. For our data, if the students keep practicing for more than 100 images, usually they can be very fluent using the template and they can blur out the answers. And eventually they can have their own template. But I mean, by saying this, I mean no template is needed for them actually. And here are the findings and discussion. The results are from the ANOVA test and the compared means. They show the DI and retell lecture combos associated with speak fluency. It's very interesting. If they are already very familiar with the template, then the faster they go, the higher their speaking score will be. So this is what we have found out. The DI combo and speed fluency, and they are 0.926 positive related, and we can see pretty high. So this is an approach, of course, relying on strategic and flexible planning and involving participants' meta-cognition with descriptive knowledge and operation over their own cognitive process, assists in constituting a repertoire of meta-cognitive self-instructions for the regulation of cognitive describe image and retell lecture task performance. At the very beginning, there are 2 research questions to ask, and I demonstrated here. Are working memory strategies construct effective for answering PTEA speaking items? Till now, I bet we will have an answer with comparison to the 2 submitted reports. The answer is yes. Comparing the means here we see the overall score, test score from their reports show that the mean score rise from 65 to 72, and for speaking, it rises from 63.83 to 74.50. Also for fluency and vocabulary. I will explain later. This is also interesting because at the very beginning, when we designed the template, we deliberately lowered down the complexity in speaking. We try to encourage them to speak as fluent as possible without paying much attention to the complexity of words. However, when the fluency has been improved, and we can see vocabulary score is also significantly improved from 63 to 69. And here are the interpretations. We see the Cronbach alpha is 0.824, significant at 0 level, 0.0 level. Here, the overall mean score rise from 65 to 72, suggesting that working memory strategies applied in this treatment, actually for all three, were effective in leading to increased level of fluency for those participants, and a positive correlation found between test takers' overall score and their desired target score. So with enough motivation, they are surely to work harder to achieve their own targets, and together with strategies, of course. The Cohen's D, the effect size, supporting an almost large effect size for treatment, improving overall score, fluency, and also vocabulary. And here is, research question 2. Are cognitive factors influential in explaining variances in speaking performance for those sitting in the PTEA? And those cognitive factors we investigated into, we tried to encourage them to achieve combos throughout the experiments. And it is determined that these cognitive factors, in terms of controlling their anxiety, their attention, their speed fluency, and response latency, those are very influential factors in explaining the speaking difference. Moreover, it was also determined that setting a target score before engaging the experiment, the sessions, they serve as a strong motivation. And it's a predictor of participants' devotion to time. Through the 3 experiments, it was also found that participants were able to generate meta-cognitive strategies that allowed them to self-regulate their complexity, accuracy, and fluency in speaking. All of these findings provide implications regarding the importance of matching learners' meta-cognition with working memory strategies in order to optimize instructional outcomes. So let me sum up the findings for this study one more time. We have found that working memory strategies can explain significant variance in CAF complexity, accuracy, and fluency. We also find fluency reflected by articulation speed, and breakdowns and repairs are the predominant components. To be more specific, linguistic complexity, accuracy, and fluency measures can present various underlying subconstructs in different tasks. For example, components that explain variances for speaking performance are lexical complexity, phonological accuracy, and fluency. And all these fluency errors, speech breakdowns, false starts, and repetitions, self-corrections, etc. Okay, and now for what we have found after many training sessions to a lot of trainees, the question emerges here is whether or not the contemporary AI speech recognition technology is accurate enough. Because we found for most test takers, especially for, not most, some of them, especially for girls who has a sharp and shrill voice, they would result in a really low score for pronunciation and fluency. So we are doubting that the machine could not actually detect properly their voice because of certain technical problems. And here, we also pose this question, whether increasing task authenticity will lead to fuzziness of test construct according to the requirement for corpus and the necessity for more strategies in language assessment. And this fuzziness creates the space and necessity for future research on PTE strategies, both linguistically and cognitively. And so far, I have come to the end of my presentation, and I'm open for questions and discussions. Thank you. Hello?
Hello, I don't see any questions yet.
Okay.
Do you have any hints for how to beat the algorithm? Algorithms?
How to interpret the algorithms?
Sure. What's your hunch about the best way to beat this test for your test takers?
Well, for online training sessions, what I did is try to encourage the test takers, the trainees, to speak fluently. So the above mentioned or introduced are the strategies that we use in many details for achieving that goal. So this test, this study, the conclusion is we have to put, if it's the AI-based, computer-based test evaluation, mind fluency above the other two, pronunciation and content, then you can be easier to achieve the target score. We do not investigate as instructors to the algorithms, but we only compare the scores from reports. We also, for example, assist the technical guys from fixing the algorithms, like to what extent our own app should be adapting to the official numbers, so as to compare whether they can actually, based on the post-training interviews, their report will be saying, yeah, I am more easier to get what I want using your apps because of this number and because what you have done. Thank you.